We definitely put DJ Khaled. We definitely put the baby.
The baby was there. Yep.
And it was packed with stars, but the music was exceptional. So we did is we converged sports and music in
Yeah.
this beautiful experience, right? And we had tens of millions of people watching.
What's going on, everybody? On today's episode, we have Robert Ellin. He's the founder, CEO, and chairman of LiveOne Inc. Happy to have you on, brother. What were some of the challenges you faced when LiveOne went public, and what advice would you give to entrepreneurs considering this path?
I had $125 million in the bank at a $460 million valuation from BMO and J&P. I already had Wiz Khalifa and Armand Day on a plane flying in for them to perform for the first time in the history of the New York Stock Exchange. Sadly, the shooting happened in Las Vegas and 58 kids are killed. I have to pull my IPO. We ended up closing our IPO, much lower valuation, $200 million. We raised $23 million with Ramin Irani, who ran the Fidelity Puritan Fund. I literally met him at the airport. I was at my last wit. We closed on 23 million. I put in $3 million. He put in close to 20. And so you go through those hardships of going on the exchange. But when you ring that bell, I had a picture of my son at the podium. You never saw a happier kid. When that bell rang and all the excitement came of it, you don't get a better feeling. It's hard to ever get a better feeling in your life than that.
What's going on, everybody? I'm Alex Quin, and this is the Hustle Inspires Hustle podcast. On today's episode, we have Robert Ellin. He is the founder, CEO, and chairman of LiveOne Inc. It is a global digital media company dedicated to music and entertainment. LiveOne is your home to watch live events, festivals, and more. What's up, Rob?
How are you, my friend?
Happy to have you on, brother. Appreciate your time. Where are you at today?
Appreciate it. I'm in Los Angeles now.
Beautiful. Okay. That's where the headquarters is at?
Yeah, our main headquarters are in Los Angeles, and then we have offices in San Diego, Chicago, and New York.
I love it. So tell me the story of Robert. Let's take about a minute or two to talk about you before being a rock star in business and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, well, I guess to have the success, you have to have a little bit of failure, right? So my education was a failure at every level. So I started at 18 years old. I decided when my brother got into Harvard Law School that I had to start working early, otherwise he's going to be 4 years ahead of me. So I started working at LF Rothschild downtown at the famous 55 Wall Street. Got my chops there, and then I ran a little firm called Lombard Securities, so both British firms, and really focused all my energy really early on the convergence of media and technology, right? Media being so exciting and fun, and the technology giving you way bigger valuations and way bigger upside.
Love it.
So from that, after Lombard Securities, I started in sort of merchant banking, helping the likes of Jack Friedman built THQ and Jack's Pacific. Both went to multi-billion-dollar valuations 30 years ago. And then I decided it was time for me to, after getting this great learning experience with Jack, watching him as CEO, and having the Wall Street experience, that I had both that unique experience of understanding how Wall Street works as well as how to operate a business. And so that was my foray into starting my own company and buying some companies. And fortunately, our last couple of companies that we started, right, Digital Turbine, you probably know about. Digital Turbine, is a very similar type company. It's a mobile centric business, which is almost all of mine, right? Leveraging B2B partners to really be in the forefront leadership in media and technology. And we took that company to a multi-billion, went as high as $12 billion valuation. Went through a lot of the same cycles of this difficult market that we have now. And I think that hustle and hard work is just has lasted into this company with my team, that they really focus the energy the same way. We win by outworking everyone.
Question for you. Early 20s, what is Robert doing?
Ooh, early 20s. I'm my very, very 18 years old, I started the LF Rothschild, right? And so by 20 years old, I'm working at Lombard Securities and and doing IPOs, and I've been trading since I'm 14 years old. Literally, the phone rang one day and I start trading stocks off of someone telling me they got this hot IPO. And so I love doing these IPOs. I love taking companies public. I love the mission of doing that. And you probably heard that not only do I run LiveOne, but we spun out our podcast business into its own public company. So for the first time in my career, I'm running two public companies simultaneously.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Are you the only podcasting company in the stock market?
We're the only one on a national exchange globally.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and it's really amazing because everyone you talk to is in all world. They say the same thing, right? They say there's so much amazing, great content, there's not enough hours in the day to cover all the content you want from podcasts.
Yeah. No.
And I love the fact that it's, nonpartisan. All right. This is, there's no political agenda. There may be individual podcast who does, but there's no political agenda of our network. Our network is able to converse, and people have opinions and be able to go back and forth with each other. And if we end this world with no opinions anymore, we're going to really be in trouble.
I definitely agree. So I can relate a lot to the 18-year-old story because I started my marketing agency at 18. That's what I do. I run a marketing company, and podcasting is one great vehicle for me to meet excellent people and learn from them, right? Like you, like every other conversation I've had. I started my marketing agency while in college. You told me you started your first business at 18. I'm guessing it was right out of high school.
Yeah, I mean, really, I didn't start my own business at 18. I started LF Rothschild at 18, right?
Okay.
And then by 20, I was running Lombard Securities, which was, a 100-year-old British firm, right? And Robert Neff was the chairman and founder of it.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, he quickly went out of business because he took ill, but he was an amazing guy. He was chairman of Flying Tiger and was a partner at Goldman Sachs. Again, same as my learning experience with Jack Friedman. He had both experiences at Wall Street and so on. And you really learn to deal with the industry and deal with the ups and downs of, when you're talking about our type of companies, these are public venture capital. You're going to go, like, if you look at our stock, it's like a heart monitor, right?
Yeah.
But then when they explode and they take off and they mature to the level that we're getting now is really when you start to get traction. You can see these companies go at, 10 to 100x like we did with Digital Turbine.
So 17-year-old Robert, okay, is likely in high school, finishing up, figuring what he wants to do with his life. Did you know what kind of industry you wanted to get into during that time?
Yeah, I think I started trading stocks at like 14 years old,
14.
right? And I always found a passion for media and technology, so I studied it. So the first stock I ever bought, which I started buying my own, was Topps baseball cards, guy. And yeah, this is you're talking about 40 years ago,
Yeah.
right? And to me, I'm a huge sports guy, right?
Yeah.
I was a huge collector of baseball cards. How much fun is it to be involved in this? But it wasn't just the element of it being a media company and a sports company. It was the element of technology and what they were doing and why they were in the forefront of the business. So, and that's what we try to do. We try to be a thought leader in the industry. And in every company we've had, we've become a thought leader in a major industry that the wave was already built, right? I don't create the wave, right? Yeah, I went into
Right.
music. I owned Kazaa years ago. I had a great stock run with it, right? And so when I went into this side of it, I saw this opportunity again, this amazing opportunity, all right, that you could literally be sitting. Did I lose you for a second?
Just for a sec, but I still hear you.
Okay. Yeah, no, I don't know what happened there. So you went through this cycle, right? And I just lost my thought process. Let's try it again. So where was I?
We're talking about your last business. I'm guessing you sold it, you flipped it, one of your businesses.
Yes. No, I took it public. So Digital Turbine, I took public very much like this company was a reverse merger, right?
Mhm.
Did a secondary, right, at $2, did a follow-on at $4. Stock traded up to $600 million valuation. It almost collapsed in 2008 when the market crashed. I was literally skiing down the mountain, lost like $500 million in stock value.
Oh
And
man.
sure enough, 7 years later, the stock was worth, $12 billion as a high. So,
For
you
our
go through
be
these cycles.
for our beginners, you mind unpacking reverse merger acquisition?
Yeah, sure. Reverse merger is a really unique way. A lot of people are hearing this word SPAC, right? Which is
Yeah.
really a reverse merger, right? Except for the SPAC has some really difficult intricacies in it, right? Not only do you have to merge the company, but the shareholders then have to vote to accept that that was the right company to buy, and then they decide whether they keep their capital in or not. I find that very onerous and very dangerous because when you find the right acquisition, you got to move quick, right? You got to be nimble. So when I acquired Slacker Radio into this company, or when I acquired Digital Turbine, I had to move at warp speed. If not, it would have been bought by 20 other parties, right? What we are able to do is convince them that with our expertise in the stock market, roll your company in, take equity as part of our public company, and we'll create new unique value for you. And we've created a couple of $100 million of value in just under 6 years, right? From startup, to today. And when I bought Slacker Radio, it was doing 20 million in revenues and losing $10 million a year. I could proudly tell you this year we're going to do 140 to 155 million with 15 to 20 million of EBITDA and growing.
Beautiful. So 14 years old. Okay. Who are you learning from at this age? I don't think I've ever met a 14-year-old that wants to trade stocks, much less be that involved in the financial world. Who Who had your ear?
I think two things. Number one is my father was an accountant, all right,
Mm.
and he always wanted us to go into the business. It was amazing what he did, and he built an amazing business, and he was brilliant, right? But to me, that was the boring side of it. But you got this great education of understanding balance sheets and income statements, right? So just being around my dad and being in his office, and you learned. And what I loved about his firm was he was in every different industry. And
Mhm.
so when I sat in his office, I always focused on the ones that were exciting. I think it's way easier, especially in a public company, to get your story out and tell your story, especially at the early stages of it, when it's exciting and fun, like media, than a widget company, right?
Yeah.
And so I quickly, morphed myself into spaces that were focused on digital technology.
You got a good head start. I'm glad that your dad was a mentor and you looked up to that. It makes a huge difference for us to have a mentor guiding us in the directions that we want to head in. Let's talk about let's move on past young Rob, and let's talk about the conception of LiveOne. What was your initial vision for LiveOne?
Yeah, so it was really so coming off a digital turbine, I was very fortunate, right? Everyone made fortunes, right? Literally fortunes and fortunes were made this, right? Billions of dollars. And coming off of that, I wanted to next, I have four children, right? I just turned 59. I wanted to make sure that there was something you could leave behind. And so I started with a big social message. If you have a big social message, right, you have a big TAM, right? Okay, and you have that big TAM, the wave is already built. So coming from being in Kazaa, I'm a huge music fan, but there was this missing void that has been out there since MTV left and went into reality TV. There
Mm-hmm.
really is no authentic voice in music, whether audio and video,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And you'll get a kick out of this because I hired two former presidents of MTV who both their first reaction when I told them what I was doing, they looked at me like I had 11 heads, right? Because the music industry is tough, right?
Yep.
And subsequently, what I told them is I gave them the mission statement, which was I want a technology-based business that is going to own the rights to the largest music libraries in the world, both audio and video, right? And they said, okay, how are you going to do that? Well, I said, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to buy Slacker Radio. And I had already signed the deal to do that. And in buying Slacker Radio, that gave me 20 years of partnerships with every single record publishing company, so on, and also the back end, right, to pay out to everybody in the industry, which is really complicated. And with that, the Slacker had already spent $180 million building that business and gone through all the cycles and the understanding of where the world was going, and they still couldn't figure out how they were going to make money. So from my experience at Kazaa, I said, well, this is powerful. If I can acquire this, cut some costs, focus this business not just on audio but video as well, I really could build this moat that is going to be the voice in music. Okay?
I hear you.
We turned that audio business from 400,000 subscribers, losing 25,000 a month, to now being 3.7 million subscribers and growing about 65,000 a month. All right. And so we turned that, and the way that we turned that is we decided that from day one, what was missing in Kazaa, right, was that you were spending so much money marketing to get to a consumer that you were spending $80 a sub and you had 25% breakage. It was a model that you just can't, doesn't work. It's impossible. So instead we said, okay, how do we partner with B2B partners who already have that mass distribution? And in partnering with them for that distribution, we drive a unique audience. They get unique content from us, and it's a great trade where everybody wins, right? And the number one partnership was with a little company at the time, run by a gentleman named Elon Musk, called Tesla.
Hmm.
Right. And when I saw that contract, I'd already been studying what he was building there. We went out to San Francisco. We convinced them we'll keep the lowest price. We convinced them that we will white label our radio and call it Tesla Radio. We convinced him that we will focus our energy, right, and technology team to doing anything he needs to be in the forefront of it, right? And then last but not least is we wanted to be ahead of the curve when self-driving cars come. They're coming. You see those Google cars everywhere. I
Yeah.
think I think on I think on August 8th, when Elon comes out and he showcases his next generation AI in the car, he's got 12 billion miles or some crazy number, right? Self-driving cars are here and they're coming
Yeah.
fast. Whether it's 6 months or it's 2 years, we wanted to be the video in the cars. We wanted to be ebooks in the cars. We want to have all those elements to it, and we wanted to give them something very unique. So we started signing up. Um, 3,000. I think we had 2,200, the biggest live music events in the world, from iHeart to Live Nation to AEG to the independent music festivals. We streamed 3,000 artists. Every single one of them hit their social media and told their fans to listen and watch on LiveOne.
I actually went to
So
I believe you threw an event in downtown Miami like 2 years ago.
I did.
Yeah, I was there.
So you came to Social Gloves or Baller Fest?
No, it was a basketball event.
Okay, so that was Baller Fest, which
That
is
was
now an Olympic
badass, bro.
sport, right?
Yeah.
Guy, and it was amazing. I think we put, correct me if I'm wrong, we definitely put DJ Khaled, we definitely put the baby,
The baby was there. Yep.
and I think Scissor.
I don't
Yeah,
recall. It was
I'm pretty
packed
sure it
with
was Scissor,
stars though. It was packed with
but it
stars.
was well, and it was packed with stars, but the music was exceptional. So we did is we converged sports and music
Yeah.
in this beautiful experience, right? And we took a little tiny basketball court. There was only, as you know, it was a
Yeah.
tiny amount of people, right? It was thousands of people there, right? And we had tens of millions of people watch,
Yeah.
right? And so you combined those artists that really fit in with that demographic and that audience, right? And we break this young talent to become superstars, and you get this massive audience out of it. So, and the second thing I did Miami, and this is all during COVID, which is amazing. We did Social Gloves, which you probably remember the story of Austin McGroom and Bryce Hall and these big social media stars. I put them all in the stadium, NFL stadium in Miami, stadium filled, to the brim, sold tickets to it, and drove it to, I think, 23 million people watched it. And we put the star-studded lineup there as well in music.
Did podcasts once exist at this point, or it did not?
I did. I did.
It
So
did?
so very much like Slacker Radio, right? Slacker Radio I bought doing 20 million in revenues, losing 10 million a year. That subsidiary this year did 65 million and made 17 million dollars. Okay. And we said this year it'll do 85 million and make 23 to 25. Okay.
Yeah.
Our second acquisition, major acquisition, is when COVID hit. Our stock gets killed. We lose all of our live partners for 2.5, almost 3 years. Right? We have to figure out what's the chess move. How are we going to survive it? We had to cut costs. We had to battle through. We had to battle through with the labels. We had to battle through a balance sheet, and we pulled off an acquisition called Podcast One. Podcast One had been around for about 10 years. It was started by Kit Gray, who's my president, and financed by the combination of Norm Patitz, one of the great geniuses in radio, right? Probably the best in the world, other than Mel Karmazin at picking hosts. And he took his company, Westwood One, to almost a $6 billion valuation 25 years ago. And when COVID hit, he was coming close to 80 years old. He had some health issues. His wife had some health issues. And we met and we decided that we had such enormous synergies to share our same values, which was we are a creator first platform focused on superfans. If we treat our creators right and we focus on superfans, this is a perfect fit. We merged the companies together in an all stock deal. We bought it doing just about 20 million in revenues and losing $5 million a year. That division this year will do $50 million and $4 to $5 million EBITDA. Combined together, those businesses will do 130 million minimum this year and somewhere between 20 and $25 million of EBITDA.
I love it. Now, I read a little bit about your inclusion of AI to enhance your user experience. I know you're crazy about your customers. You want to give them the absolute best experience. We found that out from LiveOne, the events that we just discussed in Miami, all the way through whatever's been going on until now. Talk to me about AI.
Yeah, I think it's, this is the life changer, game changer, and maybe in the history of business. And we've had technology revolutions, right, in so many cases. But we've already been able to cut staff dramatically using AI. We use it for everything from search. We use it across the board and TR, IR, really unique things. And then the real home run of this is how do you use it across our platform, right, to better serve those superstars, those creators, and their super fans, right? So in podcasting, just off the bat, we've tested, and we're going to test a lot more. We're just in the beginning phases of it, of changing language on it, removing that language barrier. I still want it to be Adam Carolla's voice, but I want him to be talking in Spanish and speak the right language to it. So we've used great AI technology in it. We've used it for search to put together playlists, right, and create music playlists and to create our channels. We have 500 curated radio stations. Soon you'll hear us having 700 or 1,000 because we need less DJs and VJs, right, in order to put together those playlists. And I'll just make it up right off the bat and make Christmas, your Christmas playlist, right? I can make 50 channels in an hour, but I'll have that DJ or VJ now oversee it to make sure that there's human touch to it as well,
Yeah.
right? So I
Yeah.
can now have one VJ or one DJ that are doing 10 channels instead of doing one channel.
So the translation for the podcast, that's something that's working right now.
It's up and running. We've just started the testing phases, and we see
Yeah.
some really exciting stuff. You have to have the right host that truly has a bilingual customer base,
Yeah.
right? Like when we have Pitbull on, or we have someone that's great to be able to do this in Spanish, right? You got to find the right ones that fit and right ones that work, and it's really impressive. It's really super impressive.
I'm extremely interested in that because I myself, my first language is Spanish, so I'm fluent in Spanish. I do podcasts in Spanish. I interview people in Spanish. I have a podcast, I have a whole media world in Spanish, but then I have it in English. And a lot of my Spanish audience wants to consume my English content. I don't want to go re-record all of it. It's probably not going to have the same flavor. So it's really cool to see that companies like yours are using this type of technology to allow us to tap into different markets. I'll give you a great example. Mr. Beast. You're familiar with Mr. Beast, biggest YouTuber in the world.
Of course.
Mr. Beast, what he did prior to all of this technology is he would open up YouTube channels in different countries, right? And he would use popular people in those countries to dub his voice. That way he could become relevant in those countries in that person's language. What you're bringing to the table now with this technology, along with many other people in the space, is that we're going to be able to tap into audiences that otherwise would have never heard of us. And even if they wanted to hear from us, they wouldn't understand what the hell we're talking about. So this is a really great age for content creators.
I agree. I agree. But you got to make sure it's not just turning it from English to Spanish. It's got to be the verbiage, right? Has to be socialized in the same methodology.
Yeah.
So we're really excited about where that's going. And I think, one of the biggest things in podcasting that's got to happen, and stay tuned. I haven't talked a lot about this. I've mentioned it before. We're very focused on search inside of podcasting. It's so hard to find podcasts, right? The best way to find podcasts today is from other podcasters you trust telling you should go listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
We need to find a real search engine that really works in podcasting, that really dynamically flusters through and finds the content you're looking for, right? And that content that fits your habitual behavior best.
Yeah, as a digital marketer, I've been doing digital ads and SEO for 15 years now, so I definitely understand the importance of search. I could only imagine what type of stuff you guys are working on your platform to be able to find specific topics within specific episodes to highlight exactly what you want to get to in the moment you want to get to it. It's going to be fantastic, and it's going to allow businesses like mine or the businesses I work with to be able to tap into their audience in easier ways by just being able to use your technology to get them what they need when they need it.
But we'll also find each other, right?
Yeah.
It's like we'll find each other, in a much easier fashion where there's a fit that our type of company and my pedigree, my background, and what I do fits in with what you're sharing with your fans, right? And if you do that, it becomes relevant to your fans. They become super fans, right? Meaning they come back looking for that, and they come back searching for it, and they try to find that relevant content. And it's fun. I mean, I love doing these interviews because you get to share the experiences you have. And I'm one of the few CEOs that'll tell you every time, the only way I've ever won is by outworking my competitors,
Yeah.
right? We just outwork, and we just, anyone that's ever met me or my team, we fought through adversity. We've already survived. We survived COVID, losing all of our live business, which was half our revenues at the time, and somehow grew our revenues from 38 million to on our way to 150 million this year, right? And somehow we survived that. We survived the market crash where microcaps are just decimated, especially media and technology. And we survived the banking crash where every one of us, if you were in a small bank, those banks were either wiped out or they were about to be, right?
Yeah.
Or they got acquired at the last second. So this has been a fascinating learning experience that everyone says, well, you've lived this before. Nah, no, I haven't lived this one. Right.
Yeah.
We've been through a lot in this, and we just see telltale signs that every time our companies break $100 million in revenues and have 100 million of solid recurring revenues, not only does the business perform exceptionally well, EBITDA and cash flows, but it also, the stock performs exceptionally well because you now are able to focus all your energy, right, on understanding how many people you need, who those people are, and who those people are going to get in the bunkers with you when things are tough.
Yeah. So I listened to one of your prior interviews where you mentioned at the time of that interview that your platform was top 7. Where are we today?
Correct. Yeah, I mean, we're one of 10 platforms in the world that really exists in audio, right? When you think about our competitors, right? We win awards every single year for the quality of it. And our technology, our patents are best around that lean back experience in audio, meaning DJs and hosts and podcasters, right? We do all of it. We do what Spotify does, but we're really best at that, right? So we're in the top 10 at all times, and the wave is so big, right? Think about the TAM in this, right? I talked about in the beginning, jumping on a wave, not creating that wave. When I see a wave like this, the wave is Spotify just said they're going to have 1 billion subscribers. Okay. Goldman Sachs just came out and said there's going to be 1.7 billion paying subscribers to music. All
A
right.
quarter of
Well,
Earth.
right. But that's just the
Quarter of
paying
Earth.
one. That's only the paying ones. Right. So it's at least half that are getting it for free as well. Right. I don't know a single person that doesn't have a music service. And most people you and I know have 2 or 3. Right. So this is a really unique space to be in the size of that wave. We jumped on that wave and we just leverage utilizing our relationships with big ticket partners who have 10 million to 3.5 billion eyeballs. You remember in Bowler Fest, one of the reasons I got 23 million people is I partner with Facebook, right? I'm not getting them for, just our hard work. We need those distributors in there, right? So Facebook partnered with us. Then we partnered with TikTok, right, on Music Lives, right? Had 5 billion engagements, had a 3-day, 72-day music festival with 176 artists, the biggest festival ever done in history, right? All done from your home and from places where there was no audience, right? The audience was only digital. And so, COVID hit and we had to literally survive and then thrive. Right. And we've been able to do that consistently. This weekend, you're going to see a magical show this weekend if you get to watch. There's a celebrity soccer event, right? That I can't tell you who the celebrities that are playing. They're going to announce it probably tomorrow or Saturday morning. But on Saturday night, you're going to have millions and millions of people watching, right? Celebrities playing soccer with, some of the best names in music, sports, so on across the board, and super fun. And because we built all this technology during COVID for pay-per-view, for live streaming, all the things you saw at Bowler Fest, NFTs, right? Merchandise, all that in one. We give you an immersive experience while you're listening and watching. You get to chat, message, buy a hat, buy a t-shirt, buy an NFT, right? Watch the replay of it and really get to enjoy these spectacular events from all over the world.
Taking a company public is a monumental task. What were some of the challenges you faced when LiveOne went public, and what advice would you give to entrepreneurs considering this path?
Ooh. All right. So I'll give you one of the great hardships and fun stories, right? I've gone through. I had $125 million in the bank at a $460 million valuation from BMO and J&P. Okay. I already had Wiz Khalifa and Armand Day on a plane flying in for them to perform for the first time in the history of the New York Stock Exchange. Sadly, the shooting happened in Las Vegas and 58 kids are killed. I have to pull my IPO, right? I pull the IPO. Everyone goes, oh, you're not going to get this done. I said, no, we're going to get it done. We're going to take a deep breath. We're going to reshuffle the decks. We're going to really think about what we got to get done. We're going to have to do it with a lot less money, right? And we're going to have to make some decisions that are hard. We ended up closing our IPO, much lower valuation, 200 million. We raised $23 million with Ramin Irani, who ran the Fidelity Puritan Fund. I literally met him at the airport. I was at my last wit. It was either I just keep putting more money in myself, which I'll tell you about in a second, or I get this one last investor. Right? I meet him at the airport. We spend an hour at the airport. We not only become close friends, but he was a brilliant man who had been the first money in Spotify, Goop, Peloton, Vice, so many multi-billion-dollar, run-ups in early stage media and technology. And he said, Rob, I want you to come to my office and show me how much money you need for 18 months. I'll put every dollar in on one condition. You don't take any other money in except for yourself, and you write another check alongside of it. We closed on 23 million. I put in $3 million. He put in close to 20. We closed on it, right? And we closed at $4 a share versus $12 a share, right? And then shortly afterwards, we ran $7, $8, $9, $10, and it gave us the opportunity to buy up these rights, all these digital rights, and build that. And he put in a second round of money. He's now joined our board, become one of my close friends, as well as a great board member. And so you go through those hardships of going on the exchange. But when you ring that bell, I had my kids with me. Okay.
I was about to ask about your kids.
Son.
Yeah.
I had my son literally I had a picture of my son at the podium when he was 7 years old. You never saw a happier kid when that bell rang and all the excitement came of it. So I rang the bell 17 times. The last time I ran it was podcast one, was only a few months ago, in the hardest market, September. Nothing made it to IPO. We did the first ever spin out of a public company. We spun out a dividend to our shareholders and uplisted onto NASDAQ. The first time ever done in the history of the capital markets. And I could tell you, it was as painful as you can imagine. But when that bell rang, you don't get a better feeling. It's hard to ever get a better feeling in your life than that.
That's amazing. And the impact that must make on your kids, like think about how much you were influenced seeing your father work, and them seeing you do all this stuff has to be really cool, man. Really, really great example you're setting there for your kids and everybody listening here. Look, you've made numerous successful investments in various sectors. What do you look for in a company or technology before deciding to invest?
Yeah, so this I started, right? I created this vision, right, which was going to be the next MTV, right, next generation MTV, and then I put some material geniuses around it, right? The first person I put on my board was Steve Bornstein. Why? I said I'm building the ESPN of music. I put on my board the guy that built ESPN and built the NFL networks, right? And he publicly endorses it and calls it, I think it was in the Wall Street Journal or Forbes, calls it the ESPN of music, right? The second thing I do is I go lock up the rights with friends of mine, iHeart, Live Nation, AEG, who trust me, right? And I lock up the rights to the biggest music festivals in the world, right? So that I get this massive video content to go with it, right? So, we built this amazing moat, right? I call it a flywheel that has so many revenue streams from the same piece of content, right? So, and I keep adding to those revenue streams, okay? The more revenue streams I could add to it, the bigger the TAM becomes, the bigger this company becomes. This is the first time in my career I've had more than one TAM that is $1 billion plus. As you know, podcasting is on its way to $25 billion. Right? How many years are you doing your podcast?
A little bit over 4.
Okay, so 4 years ago, the industry was less than $1 billion. Right? Yeah. It's on its way. It's on its way to 25 billion. Right? And you're seeing the likes of Bill Maher and Jon Stewart and all these great geniuses from television, Adam Carolla, right? Jordan Harbinger, all going, and now they're doing Dr. Drew, all doing these podcasts as opposed to doing radio because it's such a better medium. It's a more trusted medium. And so you got two TAMs. You got audio TAM, you got podcasting TAM, right? Then we expanded upon it and we added celebrity brands. We just announced our second celebrity brand, right? What is that celebrity brand? Kyle's Coffee, right? Smile Coffee is now being driven by Kyle to his social media and to his followers and to his 5 million across Spotify and his 10 million total social media. And he's driving his brand right to them. And we've watched celebrity brands from Kim Kardashian to George Clooney to McGregor across the board. Every industry go to billions and billions of dollars. Logan Paul using his podcast to drive an entire brand to billions of dollars of value, right? So I see this unique opportunity that it's such a great audience of super fans. Those loyal fans, as you know, come back every week. They don't miss your show.
They do not. As long as you don't leave them hanging and waiting, they keep tuning in. If anything, it keeps growing.
Yep.
One more question, a few more. What advice would you give to entrepreneurs looking for funding in the current economic climate? Should they pitch to investors?
Well, I think two things. Number one is you got to buckle up, right? Buckle up, put on both belts, put the suspenders on, right? Because you got to start watching your money carefully because you got to survive this, right? It's a really difficult venture capital market. It's a very difficult private equity market. It's a very different public market, right? Very, very few times you go through cycles where the only thing that counts right now is the top 100 stocks in each index, right? It's hard out there. So you got to watch your money, right? We've cut our costs down by $40 million. And a lot of that was going to happen in the consolidation of 8 acquisitions anyway, but you got to cut your costs down. You got to fight through, right? And then you can't raise money when the market's terrible. Otherwise you get so diluted. Why do this, right? So what we've done is not only are we not diluting ourselves, we're actually buying back a substantial amount of stock. We just increased our buyback from $5 million to $10 million, right? We bought back $5 million of stock at half the market cap when we took it public 5 years ago, right? And 1/4 of where the stock was trading right before COVID. So you got to be smart about it. You got to be careful, and you got to fight through the tough times, and then you raise your money. When Warren Buffett describes, it's one of my favorite videos ever, right? He buys the stock when the guy's on his third drink, he's happy, and he's kind of falling off his chair, right? And he sells him the stock when he's hammered, right? And he's literally, cheering and, jumping up and down. Then you sell him the stock, right? We're in the position right now where we got to buy more companies. We got to take more podcasters in. This is for the first time in 7 years in podcasting. This is a buyer's market, right? It was a seller's market where podcasters were getting overpaid, right? And podcast networks were getting these crazy valuations. Now the world has come back to reality, right? Now's the time we can keep growing. We just announced our 38th new podcast in the last 12 months. We just announced that this year, we're a March 31st fiscal year end. In 2 months, 2.5 months, we've already announced 8 podcasts in the network. So we're basically adding 1 podcast a week to our network. And these are podcasts that are doing real revenues, real traffic. So when you ask about the size of our audience, our community is growing every day.
Robert, how do you want to be remembered?
Well, so I go back and I apologize. I think I'm missing this. When I first started, there was a big social message, which was unify the world around live music. Right? I never believed in a million years what has happened to this world has happened. It's so sickening, right? It's so scary and sickening what's happening across the board. The people aren't coming together, and we have these extremists on both sides. We got to come together, right? I did a podcast with Kellyanne Conway and David, and literally a Democrat and a Republican. People are going nuts that they're doing it together. We have to bring this world together. When you go to a live music event, there is love in the air the whole time. There's no hate. There's no racism. There's no anti-Semitism. And the craziest part, the minute they leave that gate and they walk out of the music event, right, that's all over. Everyone goes back to the same problems they had before. Musicians have so much influence, right? You just look at what Taylor Swift is doing. The numbers are just staggering. She has so much influence over audience to bringing people together, right? Okay, and if we could do that, that's my hope in this, guy, and my aspiration in this business was to build this giant social message around bringing people together and unifying the world around live music. I think we still have a shot. I think we still have a shot, and I see a lot of it. And digitally, you can bring them together too. And artists have to deliver that message. They have so much control of their audience. They must deliver it. It's so important for everyone to come back together and literally stop this fighting and come back together.
Where can we connect with you on social media? Where are you most active?
Personally, I'm probably more active on Twitter than anywhere else, right? I'm not personally. My company is. I've never been about me, right? I've always described my company, right? There's no I in this company, right? This is we, right? My company. You'll hear the voice of Kit Gray running the podcast business and Brad running our Slacker business, right? We have this amazing team that has done, together we've built over $100 billion worth of media and technology companies. We have this great team. So it's never been about me. It's about our company and where our company is going. Our social media is just explosive, right? Like I said, we've had 5 billion engagements. And when I mean engagements, not only does the consumer listen to watch to our events, they've actually repurposed that content and put it back out to their friends. And that's when we become, this powerful voice and powerful message. And I think we've made a real dent in the industry. We've created a brand new revenue stream for the industry. And it's really exciting to watch, how much money we're now paying to the music industry. All right. We've become a real force, and we're just starting. Right. You watching, we just announced a $24 million deal, huge streaming partner, right? $2 million a month in revenues on average, right? Across, a platform, top 250, company in the world, right? And we're sitting here going, we've got 56 of those in the works right now. We just said we've signed 4 more, and we're about to sign our 5th, which we'll announce imminently. Right. If we can keep getting these big distributors as our partner, and they understand that we have this rich media and unique content at a totally affordable price, the cost of content is become so expensive. Right. It's really scary what's happened. Right. You see Paramount deal falling apart. Right. These streaming networks, they can't make money. The cost of an hour of content is $1.5 million. Here's the beauty in music. I said when I first started, it was like $30,000 an hour. Now it's down to about $4,000 an hour. And we're going to keep taking that down to $2,000 an hour for AAA content with the biggest social media stars in the world. So you can merge that in and really change a streaming network as they get more and more excited about having audio and video music, podcasting, pay-per-view, live streaming. They have that on their platform. We're going to sign more and more B2B deals. I built Digital Turbine to $12 billion at its high end, $12 billion valuation, all off the backs of partnerships with big distributors. In Digital Turbine, I only had carriers and hardware companies in mobile. Here we have anyone who has 10 million to 3.5 billion eyeballs like Facebook, and you've seen massive events with Facebook, all right, with us. We've done two of the biggest live events they've done, all right, including in VR. We shot 2 events in VR. So we're going to be at the forefront of original programming. We're also going to be at a cost structure that is around music, right, and entertainment, and driving and utilizing those partners to drive a massive audience to our events.
Robert, I really appreciate you doing a deep dive on your businesses, taking the time to sit here with us today. It's been awesome. It's been awesome. And it's more awesome that I actually have been to one of your events. So it was nice to put a face to the name. I hope this is not our last time having a chat together here on the pod. I can't wait to see what you do with your podcasting platform. And I'm already loving what you're doing with LiveOne. So I appreciate your time. Listen, y'all, if you like what you heard here, make sure you give them a follow on social media or go to hustleinspireshustle.com/podcast or whatever streaming platform you're listening on. On the show notes, you'll be able to find everything we talked about here today and everything having to do with Rob. Thanks a lot, Rob.